If you've been along the ride with us here in these past 2 episodes, we've been going through our offensive rankings with tiers. You're going to get Joe and my tier rankings. Let's start off with tier 1, Joe. Who do you got there?
All right. In my tier 1 at the number 1 spot, I've got Brock Bowers, number 2, Trey McBride, and number 3, Sam Laporta.
All right. At number 1, I've got Brock Bowers, and number 2, Trey McBride. That's it. Honestly, Joe, I thought about putting Brock Bowers in a tier of his own, in tier number 1. But it's really impressive. If you look at Trey McBride, that he's been able to do what he's been able to do as he was tight end 2 last year with not a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I mean, that also is impressive. I mean, typically, when you see tight ends do really well, it's usually the touchdown number. I mean, that was kind of the case for Sam Laporta's rookie year. He had double-digit touchdowns. Had a really nice year, and everyone knew kind of last year he'd be experiencing some touchdown regression there.
Yeah, and that's ultimately why I didn't include him here in tier 1. I can understand why people did. The biggest thing for me was, do I see Laporta in the same breath as I do McBride and Bowers? And I just don't think so. I think there's a lag above Laporta. I think Laporta heavily relies on those touchdown numbers. We know touchdowns, it's not a sticky stat. So from year to year, it could change vastly. So I just felt like Bowers and McBride belonged in their own tier, and that Laporta just didn't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Laporta's young enough. He's still got that upside. He did end up finishing the year with 5 straight tight end 1 performances to end last year. So maybe that's something this Lions offense can carry in from the end of last season into this season. So I still think he does belong in the tier 1, and he's one of the top tight ends to have a dynasty year.
One thing to note was he was banged up last year, so we have to keep that in mind. But I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed there. I mean, if you're expecting Jameson Williams to take this even bigger leap, you can't expect.
That's what rumor has it right now.
I know that, but if that's the case, you can't expect Laporta to maintain, Amon-Ra St. Brown to maintain, and Jameson Williams to go through the roof, and then you still got Jahmyr Gibbs too. There's just not enough volume to support all those guys.
I mean, it's really not that many players, though. I mean, you talk about other offenses, and there's usually like some offenses, trying to keep 3 receivers happy. I mean, that's the thing. Like Laporta's really, I view him kind of like the wide receiver 3. They don't really have anyone else after Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. So
what about Gibbs, though?
Well, I mean, yeah, Gibbs will get his in the receiving game. But I mean, that's from the running back position to where, there's really just 4 guys. I think Jared Goff, the Lions offense can support him.
All right, let's head over to tier number 2. Who do you got there?
All right, and tier number 2 at number 4, I got Colston Loveland. Number 5, Tyler Warren. 6, George Kittle. 7, Mark Andrews. 8, TJ Hawkinson, and 9, David Njoku.
All right, at number 3, I've got Sam Laporta. 4, TJ Hawkinson. 5, George Kittle. 6, Tyler Warren. And 7, Colston Loveland. I would not have guessed on my bingo card that I would have George Kittle ahead of you. You're the George Kittle man. You are a huge fan of George Kittle. I've got him at 5. You've got him at 6. So not all that different. I mean, we're talking razor thin here. I struggled with this one. Not necessarily Kittle. I mean, Kittle has been the model of consistency, and he's 31 years old. That's the tough part. When you're in Dynasty, you got to weigh out the age and the promise going forward. But he's been tight end 3, tight end 5, tight end 3, tight end 4. Injured in 2020 as tight end 20, then tight end 2, tight end 3. I mean, he's just been the model of consistency, and he's still, got, at least probably a few years still that he can perform. So for me, I felt like, can I really put Warren and Loveland ahead of Kittle when at this point they have a lot of promise? You would expect these guys to really, ball out. But if they don't, it's like you'd rather have them instead of George Kittle. I don't know. I was waffling back and forth. I give you credit for putting them ahead, but I struggled on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just the point. I see Loveland and Tyler Warren being, slam dunk tight end prospects and just the extra longevity you get, with them being rookies, especially, Loveland, like he's 21. He's still, he's got some growing up to do. Like it might not happen right away, but eventually I think he's going to be, a tight end that you're going to really want to covet.
Now, I'm a little surprised you had Hawkinson kind of lower in this tier. Is that just because him coming back from the injury?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. I mean, I don't know. You've always kind of been higher on Hawkinson than I have of late. He's also, approaching 28 here as well. I do think, there is a possibility with TJ or with JJ McCarthy that he does, get better.
Who's the best friend for a young quarterback, Joe?
That's the thing. Tight ends, you're right, are the best friend of a young tight end, and so I do see the path there. I guess just kind of like you're saying with Kittle, like up until I know he had a slow start last year, but Mark Andrews has also been a pretty consistent guy, at the top and very involved in the Ravens offense.
Last guy I want to talk about in this tier. I'm very surprised from you. You want to know why I'm surprised?
David Njoku.
That's exactly who I'm surprised about because I'm typically way higher on him than you are. You've got him in tier 2, and you think he's in the same category of these guys. That shocks me. Why?
Well, part of the reason why I didn't like David Njoku, Steve, as I said, it was never the lack of talent; it was the quarterback situation. So I think with the change of quarterback, we've seen him. I think there's a chance. We'll see if Joe Flacco does get the start. I mean, we've seen the two of them have a really good rapport together. But even if it is, one of these young rookie guys, I think, tight ends are a young quarterback's best friend. So if it's one of these rookies, I think they could lean on Njoku. And we've just seen, the Browns finally utilizing David Njoku with his athleticism and skill set that he does bring. And it's, Njoku's really been the benefactor of that.
Yeah, my biggest question mark with him and why I have him later than you is, I mean, I think he's a little bit under the radar in the fact that I had to kind of look kind of 2 times at this. But he was tight end 11, tight end 6, and tight end 10. So he really has, been pretty good these past few years. And he's in that tight end 1 conversation. As in not the number 1 guy, but tight end 1, top 12.
Yeah, as
guy.
a starter.
Yeah. I think with Njoku, though, he is a free agent this year. And he would get hit, or next year, that's what I mean. And he's going to get hit with a ton of void money. I don't know if the Browns will keep him. And they drafted Harold Fannin, I believe, was it 4th round or 3rd round? I'm trying to remember when they drafted him, but they drafted Fannin, who kind of has some similarities to a guy like Njoku. So, does Njoku go somewhere else that could be better for him than being in Cleveland? There's just a lot of question marks with him. So that concerns me.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I do think the writing's on the wall that Njoku is probably not coming back. I mean, like you said, the Fannin seems to be a direct replacement for him. I'd be surprised if the Browns re-sign him, but like you said, I also don't think it's that big of a negative if he does sign elsewhere. And I think there's going to be, there's teams that do need tight ends or don't have the best tight end room, so I think there will be a market for him.
All right, let's head over to tier number 3. What do you got there?
All right, and tier number 3. At number 10, I've got Harold Fannin Jr. At 11, Elijah Arroyo. 12, Evan Ingram. 13, Dalton Kincaid. And 14, Mason Taylor.
All right, at number 8, I've got Dalton Kincaid. 9, Kyle Pitts. 10, David Njoku. 11, Travis Kelce. 12, Mark Andrews. And 13, Evan Ingram. Burr, burr. You hear that sound? You know what that is? That's Joe going on the youth movement bus over here. You got a couple. I'll tell you what, I was going to say at the top of the show, we're so focused on the running back class, we're not even talking about the tight end class and how the youth movement is just going to revolutionize this group. And according to your rankings, that would be an understatement. I mean, you're talking about almost all of the top tight ends, unless I'm missing. Oh, no, I'm missing one in my mind that you haven't called out yet, are in the top 14. So you're pretty excited about this class.
Yeah, I am. I think they're all interesting, and I think they went to interesting spots too, where they're gonna there's a path for them to relevance and path for them to kind of succeed right away. I mean, Elijah Arroyo maybe not so much with Noah Fant there right now, but eventually Fant's not gonna hold him back, and Arroyo has got the athleticism to really take over that tight end one spot, even though it may not happen in his rookie year here. But for everyone else, I mean, Fannin should get some playing time. Mason Taylor with the Jets is also really interesting.
I'm a little bit surprised. You had Kelsey a lot higher before, and
Yeah.
that was even with us not knowing whether he'd come back at that time. And now we know he came back, and yet you dropped him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's mostly just because I think potentially, he's only got the 1 year left that he's going to play. So, and it just, I don't know, like it's his last ride, and how good of a regular season is it going to be, or are they going to try to save him for the postseason? That's kind of a little bit of a concern to me. I know like Kelsey is a guy that wants to go all out and put his best forward in every game, but will the Chiefs try to kind of, knowing this is probably his last ride here, will they try to hold him out for the playoffs?
He's one of the most difficult guys to rank. I mean, where do you
Yeah.
put him? What's the right spot to put him in? Right? Obviously, in a redraft, he'd be a lot higher. But it's like you're right. He probably only has 1 year remaining, so it's like okay, you got him for 1 year. Then what? I'm going to make the argument though that, and people are not going to like this. I am heavily, heavily, heavily concerned about Mark Andrews. He has got 1 year left in Baltimore, and I'm not even so sure that he's going to make it even through this year. Just throwing it out there. I could be entirely wrong, but you hear what John Harbaugh has been saying, that they're thinking that Isaiah Likely could be an All-Pro. That's what they're saying right now. They think Likely. I mean, Likely has shown flashes. They think that he could really be something. Ever since he didn't get that 2-point conversion, things have just been off. When they've been talked about Mark Andrews, they've asked him about his role on the team and everything he's done. They've been very non-committal. I wonder if he's even been right since that, car accident or motorcycle
Mm.
accident or whatever it was. That obviously we'll never really know the details of how it could have impacted him or not. You look at the beginning of the year. I mean, this guy was basically left to be done for. Now he rectified it with 11 touchdowns, but again, that's not very repeatable. It's not a sticky stat. It doesn't every year. We're not expecting him to get 11 touchdowns. That was a career high. He's never gotten that high before. If that goes down to like 4 or 5 touchdowns, you're feeling a lot different. I think people are thinking this is the Mark Andrews back in 2021 when he had over 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. I just don't see it happening. I think, I don't want to be, well, I guess I am being a prisoner in the moment, although I'm much lower on him than most people are, right? When you say,
Yeah. You've all, I feel like you've been kind of lower on Mark Andrews of late than most people.
yeah, I mean, look, hey, at the end of the day, it's fantasy football, right? You shoot your shot. And if I miss and I airball, I airball. But at this point, I'm looking at what I'm seeing here, and I want nothing to do with Mark Andrews. I
Yeah, I
still
mean,
have him 12. It's not like I'm getting rid of him entirely. I just don't think he's a guy I'm really looking to get.
yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fine, and it's fair that you think that way. I just think, I still think he's going to be, a key cog in that Baltimore Ravens offense, at least for this year, anyways.
Now, I did see, Joe, that your Denver Broncos bias might have been showing a little bit, but the Joker of Evan Ingram, up at 12, that was higher than what you had before, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, it definitely was.
Oh, why
I
is
mean,
that, Joe?
look, man, I think Evan Ingram is truly one of the missing pieces of this Broncos offense. And,
Here we
you know,
go.
look, with Jacksonville, it was all the short stuff. It was the dink and dunk. I don't think he's going to be playing that underneath game. Everything that I'm hearing, like Sean Payton wants to unleash this guy on the deeper routes. I think he's going to get some chunk yardage. And, the Broncos really need somebody that's reliable in the red zone. And wondering if that'll be, his Joker guy and Evan Ingram. I think Ingram is in for a really good season this year.
You don't think that he might have the case of the dropsies? I mean, he had that early on in his career. That's why New York Giants kind of got rid of him.
Yeah, but that seems to kind of. I feel like he kind of fixed that with Jacksonville. That hasn't seemed to plague him as much as it did in New York, and maybe just that New York market was too much for him to handle.
Now, probably the most controversial tight end out there, Kyle Pitts. You have not said his name yet, Joe. It sounds like you've been persuaded by the dark side, who believes that Pitts is no good.
I, I've I have not really been persuaded, Steve. Like I've been on the train that Kyle Pitts isn't very good, and I've always ranked him a lot lower than where you have him. So I'm not
Yeah,
surprised that he made it to your top 10.
okay, but here's the thing: he's 24 years old. I know he's got potential and talent. You're going to push that to the side
There we
because I know
go.
what
Yeah.
you're going to say. Okay, but look at the numbers, just real quick. Look at the numbers. Rookie year, tight end 6. Okay, the year after that, tight end 33, not good. But then tight end 13 and tight end 15, on the borderline of being a top 12 tight end. So he's had sky high expectations. He hasn't delivered, but he hasn't been like leave on the side of the road for trash and for pickup and say, I don't want nothing to do with you. He's not a bust. Well, I guess some people would
He
say
is
he's
a
a
bust.
bust.
He is a
How do you
bust.
define a bust? How do you define a bust?
Well, because he should be a tight end
He's
one,
been
and
a disappointment.
he's a bust. Look, he got taken in the first round. Like to me, first rounders are there to really succeed, and they should be. He should be a lot better. Like he should at least be a tight end one every year. And look, tight end is a crapshoot position. Like if he is as good as he says, and everyone says he is, like he should easily be a tight end one. Like it's not that hard. I mean, some guys win the week because they get a couple of touchdowns on the week, and that's enough to like give them tight end one on a week. I mean, it's honestly not that hard to be in the top 12. And like you said, he's only done it 1 year, and that was his rookie year.
I will say this, and people will be like, this makes no sense. I actually think that Kyle Pitts is not in for a good year. He's a guy I'm
Then why do you have him at 9?
because he's going to be a free agent and he'll finally get out of Atlanta and he'll be able to go to somewhere where a head coach and an offensive staff could really utilize his talents. I think he's just sometimes players and teams is just a bad mix. And I just think it's been a bad mix for him from the beginning. He's got to go somewhere else. He's got to, you're telling me, I mean, it won't happen. Yeah, I was going to say it with the Rams, but now that they drafted their own rookie tight end, I don't see that happening. But you're telling me if he went with a guy like Sean McVay, that you wouldn't be excited about the possibility of what this guy could do with him? To me, it's like depending on where he goes, or what if he went to the Chiefs? He's a free agent. He signs with the Chiefs. Travis Kelce goes to retirement, and now they got Kyle Pitts. I'm just saying, I think he needs to get out of Atlanta. To be honest with you, I think after that, we'll see what happens. But he's probably one of the more fascinating people that I'm really looking forward to see what happens because I don't think the Falcons want him. I definitely don't think the Falcons would pay him the money that he wants to get paid. So I think he'll get traded because some team is still going to believe in that hype, and I think he will be traded this year. If he's not traded, he's good as gone, and he'll go somewhere else, and that's why he's a future
I,
investment.
I think it's going to be tough for him to get traded because I don't think teams are going to give Atlanta the value that they're going to be looking for. They're not just going to trade him for
Unless they're going to
peanuts.
sell him, well, they might though.
I don't see them doing that. I mean, as a former first round pick, like they're going to want a decent amount for him, I would think.
They might sell him for pennies on a dollar.
I don't think they do that because they could at least utilize him this year and then let him walk in free agency if they don't really want him.
So let's head over to tier number 4, Joe. Who do you got there?
All right. And tier number 4 at 15, I got Tucker Kraft. 16, Jonnu Smith. 17, Terrence Ferguson. 18, Kyle Pitts. And 19, Travis Kelce.
All right, at 14, I've got Tucker Kraft. 15, Mason Taylor. 16, Terrence Ferguson. 17, Brenton Strange. And 18, Elijah Arroyo. I'll lean in on this. I was thinking about avoiding it, but how could I not? I find it quite strange, Joe, that you don't have Brenton Strange yet in your tiers here. Do you not think that he has a great opportunity ahead of him now that Evan Ingram is no longer in Jacksonville?
Oh, I think he does. Honestly, it just I heard you say his name, and I kind of forgot about Brenton Strange.
You not have him in your top 24?
No, I don't have him in my top 24.
Oh, Joe,
I mean,
what are
I think
you
he's an interesting sleeper. I
doing?
think he could have a good, a good year, but I just don't know if he's
Oh,
like if he's necessarily ready to be in the top 24. But I mean, I do think there. I mean,
did you not see how he finished out the year?
no, I know. Look, I've been. It's interesting because I was surprised you said Brenton Strange's name. I mean, I've been the guy that's been talking about him.
So you just forgot about him?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, he wasn't a guy that. I mean, I don't know why though. I mean, I do think he's interesting
I
and
think the
could
next
have a
time
good
we do
year.
this, you're going to be saying he's in your top 24, I think.
He could be. I mean, that's the thing. These things change and evolve. So we'll see what happens. But I did think it was interesting once you brought up his name. But he kind of was a guy I definitely overlooked.
I'm a little surprised you got Jonnu Smith where you do. I had him higher, and obviously he had a great year. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. I mean, this guy was tight end 4, but before that, the best he ever did was tight end 16. And I mean, there were rumors that he might get traded, which honestly made absolutely zero sense to me. Because even if they did trade him, it wasn't even that much of a cap savings that we're talking about. So I don't know what's going on with Miami. They're a little off right now.
Yeah, no, they're all over the place. They got guys that are unhappy, looking for trades, and I don't know. They are an absolute mess. And but I mean, the one of the bright spots was Jonnu Smith last year. And if
And
he
you
does,
told me that was never going to happen. I wish I could roll back the tape. And I told you, I'm like, what about Jonnu Smith? You're like, no, I thought it was going to happen there.
yeah, I probably did say that. It sounds about right.
I want to bring it back. If I could say, all right, hey, get the clip. And you'd
Yeah,
be
right.
like, I would bring up, well, what about Jonnu Smith? He could be something in that offense. And you were like, no way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought he was an afterthought, but obviously he wasn't, and became a major focal point in the offense.
Well, I didn't think he'd do that. I mean, what he did, because you said that
Right.
McDaniel never used a tight end in the offense, but I said he's not a traditional tight end. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, what happened? But
Yeah. I mean, they
he's a
really
great
haven't.
fit. He's a great fit in Miami. It would seem nuts to me that they want to trade him. I don't. What are they going to get for him? Like a 5th-round pick from Pittsburgh? Like,
I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed if he goes to Pittsburgh. They'll reunite with Arthur Smith, the guy. Arthur Smith really likes Jonnu Smith. He's literally had him at every stop but Pittsburgh here. So the two of them have that rapport. And I don't think Pittsburgh would use him as a traditional tight end. I mean, I think they got Freiermuth, but they really don't have, a lot of wide receivers. So I think once again he'd be utilized more as a slot weapon.
do you think that we're possibly too low on Kraft? I think some people have him even higher. Some people have him with even in the top 12, top 10. Or do you think that the possibility of Luke Musgrave, is he still involved at all, or is it just Tucker Kraft at this point? There's so many weapons in Green Bay now.
Yeah, that was the troubling thing for me, was partially just all the weapons. Then it was like, I don't know, I don't know, and I don't know what to think of Luke Musgrave either. And was like Tucker Kraft's, involvement was he just a beneficiary of Musgrave going down, and it just really cleared the path for him? Tucker Kraft was one of the toughest guys for me because like he is a younger tight end. He has shown some production, and we've seen a little bit of him, but it's just like, as we talked about, like there's only so many balls that can go around in Green Bay, and now that they've added a couple of rookie receivers even to that wide receiver room, it's just like how much can really go to that tight end position.
Absolutely. Going over to our final tier number 5. What do you got there?
All right, in tier number 5, at number 20, I got Isaiah Likely, 21, Theo Johnson, 22, Jatavion Sanders, 23, Jake Ferguson, and 24, Pat Freiermuth.
All right, at 19, I got Isaiah Likely, 20, Jake Ferguson, 21, Pat Freiermuth, 22, Jonnu Smith, 23, Dallas Goedert, and 24, Harold Fannin. So did you forget about Dallas Goedert too?
Nope. I left him off. I didn't forget
that
about
was on
those guys.
that was on purpose.
Yep, that one wasn't an oversight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I think you would give me credit. You convinced me. I had him a lot higher, and I felt like you had a good argument. And if you look at him, he's really a name. He really
Yeah.
is. I mean, he was tight end 28 last year. Guy can't stay healthy. He's only played one full season 1 year in his career. His best season was tight end 10. He's just a mediocre guy. That's all he is. And I felt like, and honestly, it scares me with his contract situation. I think he was good as gone if he wasn't for a restructure. So he's
Right.
got one more year with the Eagles, and then who knows what's going to happen with him.
That was kind of the reason I decided to leave him off. Was just, 1 year with Philadelphia, and then he just can't stay healthy. And one of the things I think, the injuries is bothering, like he just relies on so much of the yards after catch. Like he's not a guy that's going to get a ton of, volume and targets and receptions. Like he really just relies on, 4 or 5 receptions, but getting those big plays and the chunk yards. And to me, with like the injuries, it kind of is. I feel like it's going to limit that a bit. Even saw it like last year with that, back injury he had, and he's trying to make the push and then, pull something else. It just, yeah, I don't know I don't know what his future holds. I don't know if, there's going to be much of a market for him after the Philadelphia year here.
Well, as he gets older, it's only going to be harder for him to be able
Right.
to have that level of separation. I guess of this tier, is there any one guy that you felt like if we were to do this next year, that one of these guys you think takes a big jump?
Yeah, I think it could be, Theo Johnson or Jatavion Sanders. I think one of these guys is going to bump.
Really?
Yeah, I think one of these guys is going to bump up, and maybe we see them being able to go up to tier 4. I think in their second year, in the offenses that they have, and even the offense is improving as well. I think we're going to see better involvement, and curious to see what they can do. I mean, I'm intrigued by their upside.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, they're both unproven, and I really wasn't that enthused by either one of their performance last year. I get why. I mean, you're making me question why I don't have them, but the guys I have there have been more steady. That what they. I guess Theo Johnson and Jatavian Sanders have the higher ceiling because we know what Jake Ferguson is, we know what Pratt Fryermuth is, we know what Dallas Goddard is. Right, those things aren't going to change. My guys, Isaiah Likely. I think that. Likely's a free agent himself. So, you talk about being, ball out so they can cash out. So, what are the Ravens going to do? They got Likely, they got Andrews. They're both in contract years. I don't think they want both gone. I think they probably want to keep Likely. So, if that's the case, I'm sure Likely says, hey, I want to be more involved. So, I'm very fascinated. I think he could. I mean, you saw week 1, everybody and their brother ran to the waiver wire and redraft leagues to be able to get this guy because he just
Especially
went.
you.
I know, and I got burned bad from it. I got burned bad, which is unfortunate because it looked like he was going to be, it looked like maybe we were just a year too early. Maybe it was just like hey, here's a little appetizer. The full course meal is going to come next year.